Vector 6 surface wind 330 degrees 06 knots left for takeoff.
You know, it sounds like something straight out of a movie, right? A country gets forced to take this crude, basically a bad copy of a fighter jet, and somehow has to turn it into a legendary war machine. Well, for the Pakistan Air Force, this wasn't fiction. It was a desperate reality. And this is the incredible story of how they pulled it off. I mean, this quote right here just says it all. It perfectly captures the crisis these pilots were facing. Just imagine, you're a master swordsman, right? You've trained your whole life with the finest, sharpest steel, and then someone just hands you this heavy, crude axe and says, "Good luck, go defend yourself." That's the kind of gut punch reality we're talking about here. So, to really get why this was such a massive shock, we need to rewind the clock a bit, back to 1965. The Pakistan Air Force was seriously the pride of the nation. It was a high-tech, top-tier force flying the absolute best jets the United States had to offer. And look, we're not talking about average planes here. They were flying the legendary F-86 Sabre and the supersonic F-104 Starfighter. These things were literally the Ferraris of the sky, sleek, sophisticated, precision-engineered machines. And the key thing is, the PAF was completely and totally reliant on them. But then, after a short, brutal war with India, that lifeline was just cut. The US slapped a total arms embargo on them. For an Air Force that was almost entirely dependent on Washington, this was basically a death sentence. No spare parts meant the most advanced Air Force in the region was about to be grounded, not by an enemy, but by its own key ally. So, in this scramble for a solution, Pakistan turned north, to its neighbor, China. But the solution that arrived in crates, well, it brought a whole new world of problems. This wasn't just a downgrade. It felt like they were going backwards in time. And this is where it gets really fascinating. That moment of first contact. For the Pakistani technicians who were used to polished aluminum and perfect surgical engineering, the Chinese Shenyang J6 was just a profound shock. It wasn't just different, they literally described it as looking like an industrial accident. Try to put yourself in their shoes for a second. Instead of that clean, precision smell of a Western jet, they're hit with this overpowering, pungent smell of industrial grease and cheap rubber. The metal itself was rough, with rivets literally sticking out from the surface. And the cockpit? So cramped, so claustrophobic, it felt less like a fighter jet and more like a coffin. Where American jets were built around the pilot, this machine was clearly built around the engines and the guns. The pilot was an afterthought. And oh boy, those engines, they were a complete nightmare. The service life of the Chinese Wilpon 6 engines was a staggeringly low 100 hours. To put that in perspective, the American engines they were used to could run for hundreds, sometimes thousands of hours before needing a major overhaul. This meant for every few weeks of flying, the entire back half of the jet had to be ripped apart. And up in the air, things got even scarier. As the J6 got close to supersonic speeds, it would start this violent, teeth-rattling shake that was so bad it would blur the instruments. We're talking rivets literally shaking loose from the plane's body. The pilots had this dark joke about flying a bucket of bolts, but there was a very real fear that the plane could just fall apart in the sky. But here, this is where the story takes a huge turn. The PAF absolutely refused to be defeated by this machine. They didn't see a flawed product. They saw a raw kit that just needed to be finished. So they started one of the most audacious, incredible engineering projects in the history of aviation. Their plan was radical. It was basically an organ transplant. They decided to keep the rugged, powerful Eastern body, that raw Chinese airframe, but give it a Western heart and brain. They were going to merge the best of two completely opposite worlds into one killer machine. So, how'd they actually pull it off? Okay, step one, survival. They tore out the sketchy Chinese ejection seats and painstakingly fitted in British Martin Baker seats, the absolute gold standard for getting a pilot out alive. Then, they gave it reach. They designed custom pylons so they could mount their stockpile of American Sidewinder missiles. They fixed the communication issues with reliable Western radios and, incredibly, started reverse engineering and manufacturing their own, better quality parts. Okay, so by 1971, this strange, unproven hybrid jet was ready, and just in time because war with India broke out again.
The J-6, which they'd nicknamed the Steel Swallow, was about to face its ultimate test. This wasn't an experiment anymore. This was the frontline defender for the entire country.
And this right here shows you its totally unique advantage. Look, it couldn't outturn the super agile Indian Gnat, and it couldn't outrun the high-altitude MiG-21. But the J-6 had one terrifying ace up its sleeve: raw, brute vertical power. It could outclimb pretty much anything in the sky, turning a swirling dogfight into a deadly, vertical game of tag. Then came the moment of truth. High in the skies over the subcontinent, a Pakistani pilot in his J-6 gets a lock on an Indian jet with an American Sidewinder missile. This was it, a technological marriage that had never, ever been tested in combat. He fires. The missile streaks across the sky and hits its target. The hybrid worked, and you can bet the Indian Air Force was completely shocked. And the results, they were just stunning. The J-6 earned the nickname Gnat Killer because of how effective it was against that agile Indian fighter. It managed to secure a positive kill-to-loss ratio, and it proved that its crude, heavy steel frame was incredibly tough under the stress of combat. The bad copy had officially become a legend. But the story doesn't just end there. The legacy of the Steel Swallow would go on to shape the destinies of two different nations and completely redefine what people thought was possible in military aviation. Now get this, the Chinese, the ones who built the original plane, were so impressed by what the Pakistanis had done that they sent their own engineers to Pakistan to study the modifications. The student had literally become the teacher. This whole exchange of knowledge deepened the iron brotherhood between the two countries and would directly influence the design of future Chinese aircraft. And the J-6, it just kept on flying. This wasn't some short-term fix. It remained the backbone of the Pakistan Air Force for an incredible 37 years. It was finally decommissioned in 2002. It became this powerful symbol of national resilience and doing it for yourself. And that culture of innovation, that mindset of taking what you have and making it work against all odds, it didn't just disappear with the J-6. In fact, you can draw a direct line from that experience to the joint program that created the modern JF-17 Thunder, the advanced fighter that guards Pakistan's skies today. It's a direct descendant of the lessons they learned from that so-called bad cop. The story of the J-6 is just amazing proof that what looks like a failure can become a historic triumph. It shows you how grit and sheer human ingenuity can elevate something simple into something great. Which, leaves us with a really fascinating thought. What legends are being forged right now out of the technology that other people have already thrown away?